Bubba's room might have some debates going on.
I do think when I talk about you, Abdulazeez, I say that your arguments are very much tailored to Christians, but not to atheists or like I could see you run circles with ADJ all night long, or like hop in Christian chat and just do a 1v20, but never seen you hop in like, I don't know, atheist versus theist against like philosophers like, well, I wouldn't call them very complicated philosophers, but they delve into philosophy like Snowy and Warzone X and UG and the new UG nonetheless, or like JL Warren or Josie.
Yeah. I don't know. When it comes to like, first of all, it's kind of like from the Quran, right? The Quran tells us to speak to the people of the book and like in the best of manners, and tells us like the Christians are the closest to us in faith, right? When it comes to the atheists, like most of the discussions I've had with them, it just like if people aren't able to answer like these simple questions and they're gonna tell me like they don't even know if their mom is their actual mom, then like I see it kind of as pointless. All right.
For those types of things, like how do we know what words are true and like what's the true definition of words like mom? Like what makes a chair a chair? It's just like these are just descriptive terms. Like a typical response would be like the laws of logic are descriptive things in which we can change our mind based on new evidence, or that type of shit. Like the way that we fundamental truths in which we use to describe reality. Like words are definitionally a chair is a chair because of the way I define it. It's a descriptive definition of a chair or my mother, the person, the woman who gave birth to me.
Yeah. I like to integrate like a lot of Quran verses with my like arguments pertaining to atheism. Right? Like all those find out makes a really good argument here, like for the people, like just to use their cognitive abilities to reflect, to ponder, to use their reasoning, to use their coherency, and to think like, where did we come from? Or were they created by nothing, or are they their own creators, or did they create the heavens and the earth? In fact, they have no certainty. Atheists, right? They'll say like, yeah, we don't know, but you don't know, and they'll try to like project this agnosticism to them. But like it's very simple. Like I believe there's a God because like there's design evident in nature, right? Like starting with the laws like pertaining to physics and like the constants, all the way down to like the biochemical level. Like we can see like a clear signature of design, right?
Yeah,
So
and then
like
I would say there's like, what is it about the
Remember, the
cosmology?
evidence is the same.
Oh yeah, I remember Fluffy. But I would just ask like, what is it about the nature of the cosmos, the way that the planets are, the way that the gravity works, the way that all these things are, essentially big balls flowing through space and time. That that these things have to be designed. Like, what is complex about these things?
I got you. I can give you like what I've heard before, right? Like and like what I've taken notes on, right? So like the existence of our universe and everything in it like comes to about like 30 numbers that are like fixed values of
Yeah,
fundamental physics, like
fine tuning. Yep.
yeah, physical conditions like we found in our universe. Like the force of gravity is always going to be constant. The expansion rate of the universe is always going to be constant, and each one of these numbers are so perfectly precise and like so balanced, all right, with one another that if any of them were like off in the slimmest of fractions, right, we would
The
have no
universe
life
would have
as we know it.
collapsed a long time ago,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I can give you an example as well, like a tiny little proton. If a tiny little proton was slightly bigger in the slimmest fraction or slightly smaller, like there would be no hydrogen, which means no hydrogen stars, which means no carbon and oxygen made in those stars, which would lead to no water and no biology, and like life as we have it like in today's day and age would never existed. Right. So like when it comes to these constants, when it comes to these laws pertaining to physics, I think like the most plausible explanation. I think it's as simple. Like Shakespeare wrote Shakespeare. All right, we wouldn't say like a bunch of like randomness happened with a bunch
Monkeys
of
riding on random
Fluffy, shut the
typewriters show wrote
Fluff,
Shakespeare.
Fluffy, shut the fuck up. Me and you have debated before, and I threw you around and made you a pancake. Respectfully.
That's simple. Like I just think it's like independent, self-sufficient, necessary being. Like that was the first cause, right? So we don't fall into infinite regression. How we can understand morality and where we can derive our morality from like an objective source, because we have this moral sense, right? How do we know what's right and what's wrong, especially when people are growing up in all these different environments? And like if everyone's agreeing on these specific, if we say that like okay, we're a product of our a community, right? But if our community like decides to do something that's very like vehemently like vile and grotesque, like incestual relationships or like eating of children or things like this, then like I would say that that's not like a great way to derive the morality. It's not a
Abdulaziz, do
intelligible
you
way.
think some of those
For the
do you think some of those moral teachings come like partly are designed in us?
Yeah, the fitra, innate disposition. We're like biologically hardwired. Like I think these three things are like the most like we're biologically hardwired to have some sort of inclination towards a higher power, like believe, like ponder, where did we come from, how did we get here, is there something out there, like this is within our fitra, like we're inclined to, like there's like a lot of studies on this as well, like born believers, right? It goes a lot about this, like how we have this innate disposition to be inclined towards like a higher, like believe in a higher power, right? Everyone has like this, like we're biologically hardwired to want to pair bond, right? In the like form of marriage or in the form of like sexual relations, right? And have children, procreate, right? A lot of people like have this innate disposition where they want to, like, where it's biologically hardwired within them that they want to see their offspring, that they want to see a mini them, right? When it comes to unity and community, like this is how we're like biologically hardwired. We want to surround ourselves with people who have like similar views and values, right? So when it comes to these things, like I think these things are just innate within us, and I think Islam preserves these things to the highest degree. Like Islam preserves unity, Islam preserves community, Islam preserves belief in God, Islam preserves pair bonding, marital relationships, and things like this. So that's why I would say like, Islam is the best way of like, living your life, and like, it appeals to the fitrah.
The way that I see it is that I agree that a religion like an Abrahamic religion doesn't really matter if it's Jewish, Christian, or Islamic. Is that all these things are good from a utilitarian perspective, like how if God was a personal God, what you've described as a creator God, which would give a proper explanation for the fine-tuning argument, for moral standards which are written into us, which for the record, I don't believe that we were created by God. I do subscribe to evolution to some capacity. Is that if God was personal and really did have the ability to interject in our lives and give us a judgment day and give us a heaven or hell for following his good moral teachings, then that would be, from a utilitarian perspective, good for society. But just because something is good for society, that doesn't necessarily mean that a supernatural God or if they are a personal God in this case is true. Which is why I think that deism is pretty compelling. Is like because there's a big I don't know attached to. I think there's a big what I would describe as a supernatural type of reason as to why the universe exists. And when it comes to real quick, when it comes to the moral argument, is what morality is a descriptor of like how humans behave, and all those things which are anything that is descriptive of how humans behave when it comes to morality, when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to what it is that I value, all those things are descriptive, and all those things come from psychological. I say this with a background in psychology, from what you were conditioned to believe, what you were conditioned to find sexually attractive, what you were conditioned to find moral. These things are not needed for the existence of God.
Yeah. But like, don't you think like everyone's inclined to like they have this sort of inclination where they want to identify like a true purpose in their life?
Yeah, and also when what I find to be my purpose in life is something that will be conditioned for you to believe. For example, if I value having a healthy, like a nice big family, and I'm able to provide for a nice big family, then I will derive my ultimate purpose in life because of the way that I was raised to be. My purpose will be to have a nice big family. And even from the religious perspective, if you were conditioned to believe that God is absolutely true and there could be nothing else true apart from him, God is truth, God is love, God is just, then you will ultimately find your purpose to be more serve God, to submit to God. So that's what Muslim means, right? To submit to God. And and that applies to any type of purpose, any type of value system, any type of morality.
Yeah, that's where you come from.
And what you've argued for so far is like to kind of move to maybe a different topic, is it's not too hard to get me to believe in an impersonal God. That's especially because of my experience of reality. I don't think that prayer. I'll be blunt. It's like I don't think that prayer works. I don't think that. I think that is the result of manifesting, and I don't think that God intervenes in our lives at all. I think that everything has a more of a humanistic explanation. If you can prove to me either supernatural occurrences to be true, or that like God is personal, then that would be like kind of a gateway to make me to believe in not only Islam but any other religion for that matter.
What would you take as supernatural? Because the Quran tells us about like, even if like, so the Quran tells us, let me get the exact verse. It's in chapter 15. The like what would be your criterion? Like,
Yes.
what kind of evidence would you be looking for?
So supernatural things are anything that any person, place, or being that exists outside of or breaks the laws of nature. So, like a supernatural occurrence would be a miracle. supernatural, like parting the Red Sea. That's a breaking the laws of physics. That's a miracle. That's supernatural.
But don't you think you would look for like a rational explanation to it like first?
The thing is, I don't think there is any rational explanations for, unless you like, you could probably like throw the Quran at me real quick, but like every other type of truth has a rational justification or series of tests or methodology in order to prove that the truth claims really happened. And supernatural claims have no such methodology. It's like, I just claim that I am speaking to the Holy Spirit right now, right? But I have no way of proving, testing, or showing how I'm doing so. It's just like, but what were you going to show me in Surah 15?
I gotcha. But like I'll go over that like real quick right after this. But like the sea splitting, like, do you think if you saw like the sea splitting right in front of you, right?
Oh yeah.
And there was a man who claimed like he was the one who split the sea, right? Wouldn't you look for like any sort of bombs underneath, maybe, or like some way that he could have parted the sea, or some way he could have had this like
Sure.
this way of you having like this visionary experience of like the moon or the sea splitting? Like, don't you think you would look for that sort of like justification, like try to see it like rationally and not something supernatural?
Yeah, it depends on how skeptical I really am. Like if I saw like in the way that like the Bible or the Quran describes like the sea splitting the way that it does, I could like, if I was there, maybe I would like dig into the Red Sea and look for bombs, look for like big wind machines that are going off in some type of way, or something crazy. But also, if it is described in the way that the Quran and the Bible describe it, then maybe then maybe I wouldn't have to
Like
get
if
to
you were there
that.
2,000 years ago.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have to go into that
like
level of
2000.
hyper skepticism. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, like there's like a lot of people, like I tell them like what would convince you, and they say, oh well, like maybe if God came down and showed himself to me, right? But we know like even like the Quran makes this argument as well, like even if they saw God, or even if they saw like the heavens opening, right? They would say like we've been bewitched, we've been bedazzled, right? A lot of people would look for some sort of like naturalistic way of explaining it, or like maybe there was shrooms in that food I ate, or maybe there's like some way of like rationally explaining this, like instead of thinking of the supernatural, right? But when it comes to like the proofs and the evidences that we would go over for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu and his like reliability, right? We would go over like how the people identified him like prior and post revelation, like he was known as like the trustworthy one. People would keep their belongings with him, right? Like there's many occasions where we could have seen him lie to gain some sort of popularity, right, pertaining to his prophethood, like the Ibrahim, like his son dying, right, and then the eclipse happening, right, the solar eclipse happening, and everything turning dark and gloomy, and him saying, like, and the people saying, oh, the eclipse has happened because the Prophet Muhammad's son has died, right, and the Prophet Muhammad could have taken this opportunity. A false prophet would have jumped on this opportunity to try and like gain popularity and say, yes, these celestial bodies, they've overlapped one another, and everything became dark and gloomy because my son has died, right? He could have jumped on this opportunity, and people would have he probably would have gained a lot more popularity in that specific circumstance, right? But we know he rejected this, and he said that he glorified Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when this happened. He said this is like the celestial bodies, like this does not happen for anybody. These are just signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And when it comes to like his prophecies, we've gone over a couple, Bubba, right? But when it comes to his prophecies, him being able to predict things like 10 years after his life, him being able to predict the Rome, like the Romans, defeating the Persians, coming back and defeating the Persians after they were defeated, right? When it comes to him telling us like of his uncle that's going to die as a kafir, and all his uncle had to do to disprove Islam was just to accept Islam, like before he died, right? So when it comes to these things, when it comes to Prophet Muhammad making prophecies 10 years after his life, we see multiple of them. And when it comes to making prophecies 100 years after his life, talking about the spread of Islam, how it spread to the east and the west, right? And Islam, like the Islamic conquest and the Arab conquest, like taking over from southern France all the way to China, and then expanding from the east to the west, and so abruptly, so quickly, right, with the slenderest of human backing and against the heaviest of material odds. And like scholars don't know how to explain this in today's day and age. And the Prophet Muhammad telling us that they'll take over Sham, Iraq, Persia, all these places, telling us of the Arab conquest like prior to them happening, and everyone seeing this and looking at him like he's crazy, right? Like when it comes to these ways that we can like verify the Prophet Muhammad's prophethood, and like the proofs and the evidences that we can look from like a rationalistic point of view. Like when we put this on like a material scale, or when we put this on like a scale of probability, right? It's not going to be in favor of the Prophet Muhammad pertaining to like these claims he's making, and pertaining to like how he got these things like rationally, how he got these things rationally correct. So when it comes to the Prophet Muhammad, we would say like we don't even need to see the supernatural. We don't need to see the supernatural. We have evidences and proofs. So like why we trust the Prophet Muhammad, why we believe in him. Right? Criterions we have. So.
And that's where just like I like to think that I'm not some type of hyper skeptic, like, fucking Grizzly, Grizzly. I'm not like some type of hyper skeptic who's going to like have an angel revealed in front of him, like I'm like the angel Jabril, or the Holy Spirit, or Jesus is going to walk in my front door and I'm just going to deny him immediately. I like to think that I'm more like doubting Thomas in the Bible, like where I will see which I don't, maybe I would consider, like maybe I am hallucinating, maybe I did get my water was slipped with some LSD or something, but but I like to think that maybe I am some type of person that would like have an angel revealed in front of him, or the Red Sea would split in front of me, and I would actually believe like, oh, this is actually clearly a God who cares about me and is trying to trying to save me, or like help me, or is personal and actually cares about me, or in that type of way. And the reality is that there are people, probably millions or billions of people, that are skeptical and have not received personally a supernatural occurrence happen to them, and that's kind of what it would take for them to believe that God is actually true, or like supernatural things can actually happen. Also, a bit of a side note, like that's the reason I, kind of like the what's the traditional atheist cope is like, well, you can't prove God, therefore he can't exist. You can't prove God to me. Like, people say that all the fucking time. I found that as annoying as fuck as a theist. And I kind of changed that question in order to kind of like point theists more into the right direction. And it's for me to say, don't prove God to me. Like, I know that that's an unreasonable thing to say. Instead, if you can kind of show me some type of methodology for supernatural claims, then we could probably get somewhere. And still, I've been doing this only for like 3 months, and I haven't really seen any type of methodology whatsoever. It's like basically either the Quran says so, and I have faith that what the Quran says is true because of the way that usually it comes down to the way that I was raised, or the Bible says so, therefore I have faith that it is true. It's like someone make a claim, you have faith in whether or not it's true, and that's more or less it. And like, Abdulazeez, have you personally like witnessed something equivalent to like the parting of the Red Sea, or like Jesus coming down and speaking to you, or Muhammad coming down and speak to you in some capacity? Something that is inexplainably supernatural.
Nothing specifically like that. Me, like I would say like one of the scariest experiences of my life. Just like felt like a jinn pressing on my back, right? And I was just like frozen and awake, and like I was trying to scream out, and like I couldn't, right?
Sleep paralysis.
So yes, something like it felt like that, but I was 100% awake, right? And I just couldn't move, and I couldn't budge, and I felt like weight on my back, and
I've had it a
didn't know
bunch
what
of
it was.
times. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah. So I would say something like this, but like the only thing that like got me to start moving was like when I like snapped into it and like started like thinking in my head like I have to call upon God, I have to like say the shahada before I die, right? Something like this. Like this felt like something supernatural, and obviously you can look at it from like a naturalistic perspective. But
I'm not ashamed to say I fucking prayed too, mate. Trust me.
Yeah,
Seeing that black figure is fucking. It's mentally scarring. Like, it's actually terrible.
Bro,
I was scared to sleep for a long time.
I don't know if
I didn't see it, but
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Abdulaziz is actually describing sleep paralysis, and this guy
talking about?
I think he is describing that.
It sounds like it, but I don't think that he was. He hasn't said, but I don't think he was in bed or lying down or sleeping.
He said he was.
He said he was awake.
I was lying down, but I was 100% awake.
Oh yeah,
like, I remember being
sleep paralysis.
Yeah, you're awake when you have sleep paralysis.
Yeah, I know. It was like I know. It's,
So why is it called sleep paralysis? Like can you explain that to me?
It happens in between, like. It's like on the cusp of when you're awake and asleep. So your mind is like awake, but your body is thinking it's still in like its kind of sleep mode.
I wasn't. I was like, I didn't. It's. I hadn't even fallen asleep. Like, I think on like sleep
There's
paralysis. Like, I've
there's
experienced.
just realms of sleep that your body goes or your brain goes into, and there's like deep sleep. There's I forgot what the deepest one is. There's a
REM
like
sleep.
Yeah,
REM
REM,
sleep.
yeah REM,
Yeah.
and so like when you REM is the stage of sleep where your body goes like it's your body shutting down, such as your muscles, all like bodily functions is like shutting down except for like your self-sustaining ones like your heart. But your brain is still up and wide awake as though you can move, you're moving around. And you wake up and you cannot move because your brain's like, oh, wait, am I supposed to be awake right now or am I sleeping? And then usually people are sent into a panic because they're not known, like they don't know how to calm down. This can usually be done due to anxiety, etc. But yeah, it happens to a lot of people. Some people experience visions during this because they have not experienced it before, such as like dark figures. Some people experience pressures within their head, headaches, chest aches, because their body is tensing and they don't know how to calm down. So, if anybody ever experienced this focus on your breathing. Like, focus on your sensory. Start touching your bed. It'll calm your body down, and like you'll get out of it eventually. Don't panic.
I focused on screaming, and that helped.
Screaming never helped me. Screaming made it worse.
I didn't
My
actually
sleep
scream. It was like the
paralysis.
idea of I need to scream, like, kind of broke me out of it. If that makes sense.
Really?
My sleep
remember
paralysis
the
demons
first-
like
Oh, go ahead.
yeah. I'm sorry. Go.
Yeah. I was just,
Oh no, the first. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, we just moved from three people. It's just I can describe sleep paralysis pretty well. One, because I suffer from it pretty badly, so I'm used to it. And in psychology, like there's a whole like half a book dedicated to like what it is to sleep. Sleep paralysis isn't really a seizure because you're not exactly. Because even though you're motionless, you're still fully aware of your surroundings. It's not exactly hallucinations because everyone is, or like being on drugs or something, because everyone claims to have experienced the same thing. Me and Abdulazeez have kind of seen the same thing. Like when people talk about like a black dark demon standing over them.
Yeah, I didn't see.
It's always like just
I
a
didn't see
shadow,
anything.
bro.
Yeah, it's like a weird shadow. It's like a weird, hard to describe like figure,
Yeah,
which is like
I didn't
that
see. I
happened to
didn't
me
see
like
anything
3
like
times
that.
in the hospital.
Yeah.
It's always been a
The
figure
first
for
time
me.
the first time I had it, my sister said some stupid stuff, and I started like I wanted to correct her so bad, and I couldn't. And yeah, then I started freaking out.
and so like this is why sleep paralysis has its own category, because you're not asleep, you're awake, so it's not anything that's like you're suffering from a heart attack. You're not on drugs, you're not on LSD, you're not hallucinating like you would typically with schizophrenia, because these aren't people who suffer from schizophrenia. And it's not a seizure because of the other reasons that I said earlier. So it gets its own category, and you call it sleep paralysis, and it's I think is the strange, and this is where I'll kind of let down a little bit of a guard and say like it's what I consider to be the most supernatural thing that humans experience. Like a lot of people, such as myself,
Potentially.
potentially, of course, but that say like this seems like something that is supernatural, that is so brushed off in like psychology and biology and all that shit. It's like, why is everyone seeing the same fucking dark demon in bed and they can't move, can't speak, can't breathe? They're all experiencing the same thing. It's like shared hallucination. Like, what the fuck is up with that?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that you're wide awake while experience, like you're classified as wide awake while experiencing these things. Like your brain is awake. Sometimes people's eyes are open, sometimes they're closed, and they can feel people touching them. It's weird.
I think my sleep paralysis demon was racist or something. He stepped on my neck.
That's crazy. Wait, but
I'm not even
Bubba,
joking.
what have you read on miracles?
Not much apart from like biblically, and I know I've like most of the Quran miracles are more or less the same as the biblical miracles, and also
Okay, have you read Hume or William Paley on miracles?
no,
Wait, hold on, my iPad's about to die.
not much. People present. I always have to feel like I'm kind of a dick when people bring up to me miracles that may have happened in their life, or these miracles that have happened in other people's life. Is like, that's great for you, or the person. That's great that this happened to this person. However, like that's great for you, but I can't share the same experience as you have.
No. That's what I'm not vouching. I would never give that to you, and I don't give that as a stance. I think it's a remedial case to give a stance for why I would believe in a religion, because like anybody can experience that. So then does that make another religion true? That's not what I was going to bring to you,
Well,
but
there's
I'll
one thing
send.
that we can all experience, and that's the universe, and that's a miracle that exists.
Okay, my nigga. Anyways,
By
so
definition.
I can give you a paper on Hume's argument for miracles and Paley's. I think they give strong arguments about why Christianity's view of like miracles couldn't be true. But I think they give also a strong case for why Islam's is true. But it's kind of controversial, so I don't know. Maybe sometime if Abdulazeez is not busy, I can have a discussion with you on it. Just the three of us.
Yeah, maybe. I guess not. I guess not now because there's too many people. Also, I have 10 minutes before I have to start getting ready to go to work.
Yeah, no issue.
Yeah, sure, Meryl. I'll add you as a friend. I'd never seen you before, and you like was apparently.
My name's changed like 500 times
Oh,
before.
do I know you under a different name?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
In the